Not a lot of cameras get access, but ABC15 is inside TSMC, one of the world's leading chip manufacturing companies. TSMC.
So many people coming together for a particular mission.
The dream was to build an advanced semiconductor facility here in the United States. So I said, this sounds amazing, sign me up. Seeing that wafer just remind me what this job is about.
I wanted to work at TSMC because the tech, right? Like you can't get it anywhere else.
You check your phone, scroll, tap, swipe, everything feels normal, easy, like it's always been this way. But right now there's a single point on Earth holding all of this together. And if it stops, your phone, your car, the internet, even global economies start breaking down in weeks. This isn't a theory, it's already happening, quietly. We like to think we understand how the tech world works. It feels simple from the outside. You see Apple going head to head with Google. You hear about Nvidia pulling ahead in the AI race. You watch Tesla pushing toward a future that once felt like science fiction. It all looks like competition, like a constant battle for who wins, who leads, who shapes what comes next, but that picture is incomplete. What looks like a fight on the surface is built on something much quieter underneath, because behind all of these companies, behind the headlines, the launches, the hype, there is one place they all rely on. Not sometimes, not occasionally, completely. Now, shift your focus to the western coast of Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. The air is thick with heat, the kind that sticks to your skin. Security is tight, almost uncomfortably so. Most people have never seen it, never even think about it. From the outside, the buildings don't look like much. Clean, controlled, almost ordinary. Nothing about them suggests how important they really are. But inside, it's a different world. Machines move with a level of precision that doesn't feel human. Every second is controlled, every process measured, no pauses, no off switches. Day blends into night and night into day without interruption. This is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, the company that manufactures the advanced chips powering almost everything you use. It doesn't sell you a phone, it doesn't build apps, it stays invisible. But without it, none of those companies you recognize can function. And even more quietly behind those machines is another layer most people never hear about, a company called ASML, the only company on Earth that builds the machines needed to produce these chips. No ASML, no TSMC, no TSMC, no modern world. And if those machines ever stop, even briefly, the effect wouldn't be loud at first. No sudden blackout, no dramatic warning, just small cracks, delays, shortages, tiny disruptions that start to spread, then those ripples grow, because the modern world isn't built to pause. It's built to keep moving. And when the one system holding that movement together begins to fail, everything else doesn't just slow down, it begins to come apart. This didn't happen by accident. It traces back to one decision made by one man, Morris Chang. At a time when every major tech company was trying to design and manufacture its own chips, he stepped in a different direction. Instead of competing with them, he made a quiet offer. We won't fight you, we'll build for you. It sounds simple, almost obvious now, but back then, it was a radical shift. No consumer products, no brand wars, no spotlight, just pure manufacturing. A company built entirely around serving others, not outshining them. And that changed everything. Because it made TSMC something rare in the tech world: neutral, safe, trusted. Companies that would never normally cooperate began handing over their most valuable designs, their intellectual crown jewels, trusting that they would be protected. Bit by bit, that trust pulled the entire industry in one direction. But trust alone isn't what holds this system together. The real barrier is physical. Making advanced chips isn't just difficult. It pushes the limits of what's even possible. We're talking about structures so small, they're measured in atoms, built with a level of precision that leaves almost no room for error. At that scale, even tiny imperfections can destroy an entire batch. And to do this, there's only one company on Earth that can provide the machines required: ASML. Their EUV lithography systems are enormous, almost surreal in complexity. Each one is the result of decades of research, thousands of components working in perfect harmony, and supply chains that stretch across continents. These machines don't just cost a lot, they cost hundreds of millions of dollars each. And even if you had unlimited money, you couldn't simply recreate them. The knowledge, the engineering, the precision, it's all locked behind years of accumulated expertise. So what you have is a narrow path, a single company making the machines, a handful of facilities capable of using them. And at the center of it all, TSMC, operating at a level few others can even approach. Now, here's the part that really lands. TSMC doesn't control most chips. It controls over 90% of the world's most advanced chip production, the cutting-edge ones, the ones that power your phone, run artificial intelligence systems, drive modern cars, and support global infrastructure. Take those away or even slow them down, and you don't just lose convenience. You start to lose capability because everything at the edge of progress depends on them. Right now, it feels like a gold rush, not for land, not for oil, but for intelligence itself. Artificial intelligence is everywhere. Every headline, every pitch, every major investment seems to circle back to it. Companies are pouring in billions, racing to build faster models, smarter systems, something that feels like the next turning point. And right at the center of that momentum is Nvidia. Their chips are the engine behind it all, training massive AI models, powering data centers, running the systems that are quietly reshaping entire industries. From the outside, it looks like they're the ones laying the foundation of the future. But there's a detail most people miss. Nvidia doesn't actually manufacture those chips. They design them. The architecture, the performance, the innovation, that's theirs. But the physical reality of those chips, the silicon you can hold, the thing that actually makes it all work, comes from somewhere else. Every advanced chip still passes through TSMC. So now imagine what's really happening beneath the surface. Trillions of dollars are flowing into AI. Government, startup, tech giants, all pushing forward at once. But all of that ambition, all of that demand has to move through a single, incredibly narrow channel. And that channel sits on one island, Taiwan. It's a bottleneck most people never see. From the outside, everything feels limitless. New breakthroughs every month, faster systems, bigger models, more capability. But underneath, the physical world is struggling to keep pace. Because manufacturing these chips isn't something you can just scale overnight, you can't snap your fingers and build another facility. You can't rush decades of expertise. Even expanding production takes years, billions of dollars, and near perfect execution. So while demand is accelerating almost uncontrollably, the supply side moves with a different rhythm, slower, constrained, careful, and that gap between the two is where the tension begins to build. It doesn't show up as panic, not at first. It shows up as delays, longer timelines, limited availability, companies waiting longer than they expected, plans quietly shifting behind closed doors. But that pressure doesn't disappear. It accumulates. Because when the future everyone is racing toward depends on something that can't expand fast enough, you don't just get competition, you get friction. And that friction, over time, has a way of turning into something much bigger. Now zoom out for a second. Pull back from the companies, the products, the headlines. Look at the map instead. Taiwan, China, United States, different systems, different priorities, different tensions, but all of them are tied together by one quiet dependency. Chips. There's a phrase people use, the silicon shield. It sounds abstract, but the idea is simple. If something serious happens to TSMC, nobody walks away untouched. Not one side. Not one economy. China loses access to the advanced semiconductors it needs to keep its tech sector moving. The United States risks losing its edge in artificial intelligence, defense systems, and high-performance computing. And beyond that, global markets don't just dip, they react sharply. Supply chains fracture, confidence drops, the shock spreads faster than most people expect. There are no winners in that scenario, just different forms of damage. And strangely, that shared risk is part of what's keeping everything stable. It creates a kind of invisible restraint. Everyone understands what's at stake, even if it's not always said out loud. But here's where it gets complicated. The world knows this. Governments aren't blind to the risk of relying so heavily on one place. So now there's a quiet scramble underway. The United States pushes forward with the CHIPS Act, trying to bring semiconductor manufacturing back onto its own soil. Europe starts investing heavily, laying the groundwork for new fabrication plants. Billions of dollars begin to move, not toward innovation alone, but toward independence. And companies are being pulled into that effort. Intel, once the undisputed leader in chip manufacturing, is trying to rebuild that capability at home. New factories, new strategies, a renewed push to close the gap. But this isn't something you fix quickly. You can't compress decades of experience into a few years. You can't shortcut the trial and error it took to reach this level of precision. It's not just about money, it's about people, processes, and a culture of execution that has been refined over time. And right now, at the very highest level of chip production, TSMC still stands alone. Others are catching up. Some are getting closer. But at the cutting edge, where the smallest margins matter most, the gap isn't small, it's still wide. And that means, for now, the world remains exactly where it didn't expect to be, deeply dependent on a single point that's far more fragile than it looks. So next time you pick up your phone, pause for a second, look at it differently. What feels ordinary is actually the outcome of an extremely delicate system, built on precision, coordination, and trust across borders. At the center of it sits TSMC, operating from Taiwan, quietly producing the advanced chips that power almost everything you use. It's easy to forget how many layers exist between a simple tap on your screen and the infrastructure behind it. But once you see it, the simplicity disappears. What remains is a system that works because every part continues to function without interruption. And the real question is not just how it works, but how long it can keep working this way.